desert angels. The Arizona sun hung high and merciless in the cloudless sky, casting sharp shadows across the Red Rock Desert. Marcus Thompson wiped the sweat from his forehead as he adjusted his worn hiking boots on the dusty trail. The silence of the desert was complete except for the soft crunch of gravel beneath his feet and the distant call of a hawk circling overhead. Marcus had been hiking these trails for 3 years now, ever since he'd moved to Phoenix to start over after Sarah's death. The desert had become his sanctuary, a place where he could find peace in the vastness and solitude. Today's hike was supposed to be routine, a 5-mile loop through the McDowell Mountains that he'd completed dozens of times before. The trail wound between towering saguaro cacti and clusters of prickly pear, their ancient forms standing like sentinels in the harsh landscape. Heat waves shimmered off the rocky path ahead, making the distant mountains appear to dance in the afternoon light. Marcus carried his usual supplies, plenty of water, a basic first aid kit, and the kind of respect for the desert that came from understanding its dangers. As he rounded a bend near Devil's Canyon, something caught his eye. About 50 yards ahead, a figure lay motionless beside the trail. Marcus's heart rate quickened as he broke into a jog, his boots kicking up small clouds of dust with each step. The figure was a woman, probably in her early 30s, with long, blonde hair spread across the red dirt. She wore expensive-looking hiking clothes, the kind sold in outdoor gear catalogs for people who rarely ventured far from city limits. Her designer water bottle lay empty beside her and her face was flushed with heat exhaustion. "Ma'am," Marcus called out as he approached, dropping to his knees beside her. "Can you hear me?" The woman's eyes fluttered open, unfocused, and filled with panic. "Help," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Snake, it bit me." Marcus quickly scanned her body and found 2 small puncture wounds on her left calf, already beginning to swell. The skin around the bite was turning an angry red, and he could see the telltale signs of venom spreading through her system. "Okay, try to stay calm," Marcus said, his voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through him. "I'm going to help you. What's your name?" "Catherine," she managed, her breathing shallow and rapid. "Catherine Reynolds." Marcus recognized the symptoms of a venomous snake bite from his wilderness first aid training. He needed to act quickly, but carefully. "Catherine, I need you to try not to move. I'm going to call for help and do what I can to slow the venom." He pulled out his satellite communicator, a device he'd invested in after one too many solo hikes in remote areas. The desert might be unforgiving, but Marcus believed in being prepared. As he activated the emergency beacon, he began organizing his supplies. "The good news is you're not alone out here," he said, trying to keep Catherine focused and calm. "The bad news is we're about 3 miles from the nearest road, but help is coming." Catherine's eyes were beginning to glaze over, but she managed a weak smile. 3 miles might as well be 300 right now. Marcus gently cleaned the wound with sterile water from his pack and applied a loose bandage. He knew better than to use a tourniquet or try to suck out the venom. Those were dangerous myths that could make things worse. Instead, he focused on keeping Catherine still and monitoring her vital signs. "Tell me about yourself, Catherine," Marcus said, checking her pulse. "What brings you out to the desert dressed like you're ready for a magazine shoot?" Despite her condition, Catherine let out a soft laugh. "Is it that obvious I don't belong here?" "The $200 hiking boots were a dead giveaway," Marcus replied with a gentle smile. "But don't worry, we all start somewhere." As they waited for rescue, Catherine began to open up. She told him about her high-pressured job in corporate consulting, how she'd been working 18-hour days for months, and how a doctor had recommended she find ways to reduce stress. Hiking had seemed like a healthy escape from her demanding life. "I thought I could handle a simple day hike," she said, wincing as another wave of pain shot through her leg. "I didn't even bring enough water." "Amateur mistake," Marcus continued. To monitor her condition while keeping her talking, the emergency responders had confirmed they were en route, but it would take time to reach their location. Catherine's breathing was becoming more labored, and the swelling in her leg was getting worse. "You know," Catherine said, her voice growing weaker, "I've spent the last 10 years building a business, making money, accumulating things, but lying here, none of that matters. The only thing that matters is whether a stranger is willing to help." Marcus felt something shift in his chest at her words. He'd been so focused on rebuilding his own life after loss that he'd forgotten how powerful it could be to simply show up for someone else. The sound of helicopter rotors finally echoed off the canyon walls. Marcus waved his bright orange emergency flag as the rescue chopper circled overhead, looking for a safe place to land. Within minutes, paramedics were hiking up the trail with a stretcher and advanced medical equipment. "You did good work," the lead paramedic told Marcus as they prepared to transport Catherine. Keeping her calm and still probably saved her life. As they loaded Catherine onto the stretcher, she grabbed Marcus's hand with surprising strength. "Thank you," she said, tears streaming down her face. "I don't know how to repay you." "You don't need to," Marcus replied. "Just get better." 2 weeks later, Marcus was surprised to find a woman waiting by his truck after his morning hike. It Was Catherine looking completely different from the last time he'd seen her? She was healthy, vibrant, and dressed in casual clothes that actually seemed appropriate for the desert climate. "I wanted to thank you properly," she said, walking over to him with a bright smile. "And to tell you something, I couldn't say that day." Catherine explained that she wasn't just a corporate consultant, she was the CEO and founder of Reynolds Industries, a technology company she'd built from nothing into a billion-dollar enterprise. She'd been hiking that day because she was burned out from the pressures of running such a massive operation. "Meeting you changed my perspective on a lot of things," she continued. "You showed me what real strength looks like. It's not about having money or power, it's about being willing to help someone when they need it most." Marcus listened, still processing the revelation that the woman he'd helped was one of the most successful business leaders in the country. "I have a proposition for you," Catherine said. "I'm starting a new initiative with my company outdoor leadership programs for executives who have lost touch with what really matters. I need someone to run it. Someone who understands both the wilderness and human nature." She handed him a business card with a job offer that would change his life, a chance to share his love of the outdoors while helping others find the peace and perspective that the desert had given him. "Why me?" Marcus asked, still stunned by the opportunity. "Because you saved my life without expecting anything in return," Catherine said simply. "And because sometimes the best leaders are the ones who lead by example, even when no one is watching." 6 months later, Marcus stood on the same trail where he'd found Catherine. But this time he wasn't alone. A group of stressed executives followed behind him, learning to find strength in silence and wisdom in the vast desert landscape. Catherine joined him on many of these trips, having discovered that the peace she'd been searching for couldn't be bought. It had to be found in simple moments of human connection and quiet courage. The desert still stretched endlessly in all directions, red rocks and ancient cacti standing testament to the power of endurance. But now it held new meaning for both of them, a reminder that sometimes the most important journeys begin with a single act of kindness in the middle of nowhere. And in the distance, the mountains stood unchanged, keeping their eternal watch over the trails where strangers became friends, and where lives could be transformed by the simple choice to help.